Today is Easter Monday, a day after the resurrection of Jesus Christ. INEC convened stakeholders meeting in preparatory to the conduct of local government councils elections in Zamfara State next Saturday. Plus, solar energy experts in Ontario, Canada say renewable energy development can make remarkable impact in Nigeria if the bottom-up approach is adopted. This and more with me on Panorama today. I am Ruth Aguele. Now let's begin with Easter Monday, a day after the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Christians in Nigeria joined their counterparts the world over to celebrate the resurrection. Omenka Amarachuku, who covered various church denominations, reports that the central message of the celebration centered on peace and unity of the country.
The celebration of Easter is significant to Christians, as it affords them the opportunity to reflect on their lives as Christ paid with his life for mankind to live. Christian leaders in the spirit of the celebration are advocating Nigerians to imbibe the spirit of good neighborliness and love for one another, just as Christ offered his love to reconcile mankind to God.
The resurrection of Jesus Christ showed that after death there is life. So he was resurrected to show us that there is life after death, and there is a place we are all going.
The principle there is the principle of sacrifice. Not living your life for your own self, but living your life in order to promote others.
Christ did not rise today as we celebrate. Our hope in him would have been in vain. But because he rose, he gave us victory over death.
We want peace, we want justice, we want this nation to move forward, and we want Nigeria to become that enviable nation of the world.
Afterwards, the take-home is substance of love, sacrifice, and selflessness. In Abuja, Omenka Amarachuku, NTA News.
And still in the spirit of the season, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. Beyond this, what is the significance of the day? Correspondent Victor Azu in this special report tells us all about it.
Songs like these are commonly associated with Easter, the acclaimed most important event in the Christian calendar. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is the Christian belief that God raised him from the dead after his crucifixion to give impetus to the belief in the exaltation of Jesus and the resumption of the missionary activity of his followers.
Anybody doesn't believe in the resurrection of Jesus, the person is not a Christian.
Jesus rising from the dead demonstrated his power over death, his power and authority. He has authority over sicknesses and diseases. That is where he was going. He was healing diseases and sicknesses.
It is therefore not surprising that Easter worship is dominated by songs of praise, proclaiming his victory over death. The sequence of events leading up to the resurrection are considered the very foundation of the Christian faith.
We are supposed to spend eternity in hell as a result of our sinfulness. But God in his love and mercy, not willing that we should perish, came and paid the price we are supposed to pay and died on the cross for us.
Easter season is regarded as a period of sober reflection, serving as a reminder of the quality of life and living expected of Christians.
We should come to church with more sense of sacrifice, more sense of devotion, more sense of self-denial.
For today's Christian, the resurrection of Jesus Christ not only represents victory over death and life eternal, but a victory over every adversity. Happy Easter. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
Happy Easter to you too, Victor. And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has emphasized the need for officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force to continue to maintain vigilance and high sense of professionalism in the course of discharging their constitutional responsibilities. He stated this in Yola while hosting officers of the 153 bays to an Easter celebration to commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Simon Asher reports.
The Easter luncheon, which is the tradition of the Chief of Air Staff to wine and dine with officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force during festive periods like this, is no doubt a moral booster to the officers. To this end, the Chief of Air Staff, represented by the Chief of Policy and Plans, Air Vice Marshal Emmanuel Oche, was at the 153 base Yola to make merry, thereby giving the officers a sense of belonging as they mark the resurrection of Jesus Christ at the cross of Calvary. He enjoined them not to rest on their oars, but to remain disciplined force and exhibit high sense of professionalism at all times.
These get-togethers also foster comradeship and give us the opportunity to commend ourselves for our efforts in the fight against the insurgency.
This is no doubt a great encouragement to the men in battle. Additionally, it further shows the priority of the Chief of the Air Staff towards personnel motivation.
The occasion also provides the avenue for the officers to familiarize with one another. In Yola, Simon Asher, NTA News.
All right, joining us now in the studio to discourse on the significance of Easter is Reverend Canon Jacob Ibieton, Vicar and Chaplain, NTA Chapel of the Resurrection, Abuja. Vicar, welcome to Panorama.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
And I can say Happy Easter to you.
I wish you the same, ma'am.
Okay, so let's begin with the significance of the day. What does Easter mean to Christians all over the world?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying Easter is a feast commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. Jesus rose in bodily form, and with that, giving us hope and assurance, giving us the foundation for witness and fellowship with God. Without Easter, there's no basis for witness and there's no basis for fellowship. All these church planting, propagation of the gospel, evangelism wouldn't have been possible without Easter. And then that shows that we are worshiping a dead being. And a living being cannot pray to a dead being to answer his prayers. Because he rose as he has promised, he demonstrated his authority, and he says he is the resurrection and the life. And he has power over life, he has power over death. And then giving believers assurance that they have power over their difficult situations. Nothing is impossible with God. And that Jesus Christ, who is the creator of life, has power to restore life, and restore life in abundance. And as he restores life in abundance, he makes it easier for his children to cry unto him in difficult situations, and he answers them. And as he answers them, it reaffirms our faith that there is hope for tomorrow. And at any time we look unto Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith, we receive answers and benefits in numerous forms.
And since Jesus is the center of the message for Easter, now what is this sacrifice? How has this sacrifice affected humanity?
Thank you, ma. The sacrifice has affected humanity because Jesus, who is the prime example, demonstrated his love. First of all, while we were yet sinners, he died for us. And that's the supreme sacrifice Jesus paid. We all deserve death and condemnation. But Jesus paid the sacrifice by dying for us, demonstrating his love for us. He sacrificed himself. And the scripture says, for God so loved the world, that he gave his only son, whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. And so that we can have peace with God. We can have hope. We can have assurance. That is why this was done, and giving us a very important lesson that if Jesus could do this for us, we could as well do that for others to make sure that the faith in Jesus Christ is established and we win more people into God's kingdom, to affirm that Jesus is real, he is alive as he has said, and he proves himself. As he said, he will go and come back again, and it happened that same way. Meaning that Jesus can be trusted in all situations. because he has sacrificed himself for us.
And that trust can only come when Christians have faith indeed in God. And now, talking about still on Easter,
yes,
what is expected of Christians all over the world and even Nigeria? What are we expected to do during Easter and beyond?
Thank you, Ma. What we are expected to do during Easter and beyond, having said that it is a feast commemorating the resurrection of Christ, and that is the raising of Christ from the dead in bodily form, it means that as believers in Christ Jesus and as Christians, we must look unto him in all situations, bearing in mind that with this, nothing is too difficult for him to do for us. Yes. And then our life should reflect the life of Christ. If Christ could pay that supreme sacrifice, he humbled himself even to the point of death. He's teaching us humility, yes, on a daily basis, as we relate with our superior officers and as we relate even with our subordinates. There is no reason for pride because Jesus has done it all for us. So our life should reflect that life.
So what is your message to Christians and Nigerians in general on peace and oneness?
My message to Christians and the nation on peace and oneness is that Jesus Christ is the Lord of all, the Lord over all nations and over all beings. Therefore, we have no reason to discriminate. We have no reason to cause crisis. Jesus Christ died for all. The sacrifice he paid is for all. He did not pay it for a particular political region or geopolitical zone. He did not pay it for a particular tribe. He paid it for all. And so we must see ourselves as one. And if Jesus could do this for all of us, then as a nation, we should see ourselves as brothers and sisters, and we should all believe that God, who is the God of all, is worthy of our worship and is worthy of our obedience.
Thank you very much, Reverend Canon Jacob Ibieton. He's the Vicar and Chaplain, NTA Chapel of the Resurrection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
And enjoy the rest of this holiday.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're watching Panorama on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a break now. More reports after the break. Please stay tuned.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people.
Thank you for staying tuned. More than 30 political parties are participating in the forthcoming local government councils elections in Zamfara State. Now, this came to the fore at a stakeholders meeting convened by the State Independent National Electoral Commission in preparatory to the conduct of the polls scheduled for next Saturday. Jamilu Ibrahim has more.
Zamfara State Independent Electoral Commission (ZASEC) is empowered by law to conduct local government councils elections in the state after every 3 years. Accordingly, the Commission has issued guidelines for the conduct of the elections scheduled for 27th April 2019. The stakeholders meeting convened by the Commission was hence aimed at formally digesting the guidelines and to request for their support in its quest to conduct peaceful and acceptable polls.
The Commission, in the same way, conduct recruitment, training, and posting of ad hoc staff, as well as conveyance of election materials to the zonal headquarters, local governments, and ward headquarters for onward distribution to polling units or voting points at appropriate time ahead of the election.
Governor Abdulaziz Yari, represented by the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Alhaji Bello Dankandagamji, said the Commission has been provided with all what is required to conduct the elections.
The State Government is going to operate with the State, inshallah, will be able to possible to see that the election is going to be conducted in a peaceful atmosphere despite the security challenges we are facing in the state.
The meeting gives room for the participants to deliberate on how best to ensure the conduct of the polls as scheduled. Local government councils elections in Zamfara State were last conducted in January 2016. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
And away from electoral matters, the federal government is to come up with a policy that will address misconception on the use of modern biotechnology to enhance the nation's food security. Ministry of Science and Technology is to draft the policy in collaboration with relevant agencies, including the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. Musa Babaliyu has the details.
Nigeria is gradually embracing biotechnology to enhance our national food production to cushion the effects of environmental factors occasioned by climate change. Scientists are of the view that biotechnology could be the panacea against the use of chemicals to improve yields and control pests and diseases.
Our faculties of agriculture, faculties of veterinary medicine, the whole national agricultural research system, we believe strongly in the powers of biotechnology to significantly contribute to the development of agriculture in this country.
There are, however, misconceptions on the use of the technology, with some environmental activists kicking against the use of the innovation. It is in the light of these that the Ministry of Science and Technology says establishing National Biotechnology Communication Policy will go a long way in addressing the misconceptions.
The federal government of Nigeria has embraced modern biotechnology, and it is here for good. We will continue to engage with the media to inform the public about scientific innovations going on in this sector.
I challenge you media men today.
And this workshop organized for journalists, especially agriculture, science and environment correspondent, is to further educate them on how to handle issues surrounding the use of biotechnology.
Not just giving out information, but educating people, giving people knowledge. It's actually very factual, scientific facts.
The training is under the auspices of Forum for Agricultural Biotechnology. In Abuja, Musa Babaliyu, NTA News.
Still on technological trends, renewable energy development can make remarkable impact in Nigeria if the bottom-up approach, which involves indigenous community control, is adopted. Now, these are the views of solar energy experts in Ontario, Canada, who believe strongly in the power of renewable energy cooperatives at the grassroots in Africa. Let's get details from Joy Osiago.
From an adaptation point of view, if we are going to a world that is going to be more chaotic in terms of weather, then we also need to move away from a centralized grid system to a distributed grid. And a distributed grid means that you're going to have communities more involved.
To maximize the economic benefits and public endorsement for clean energy sources like wind and solar, Community participation and ownership is imperative, as observed by Ontario solar advocates like Mark Zipkin.
You know, and we've seen that here in southern Ontario with wind, so not with solar as much. The reason why they're able to do it is because the people actually want it. Because even though their electricity prices may be going up, they're still actually getting a paycheck, a return, because they're invested in it. And so without having that community investment, you get a lot of pushback.
While developed economies like Germany and Denmark have made tremendous progress with the community involvement and ownership, Lisa Olke is pushing for more African countries like Nigeria to get the communities involved in renewable energy projects, as they create a multitude of benefits in comparison to commercially developed projects.
And solar energy doesn't require a huge infrastructure. You don't need transmission lines. You don't need transformers. In Ontario and in Canada, as well as North America, we see Africa as a very, very large emerging market. And there's a lot of interested companies in the industry that are looking for financial opportunities that they can create large-scale solar.
Renewable energy enthusiasts in Ontario strongly believe that when the strategies for inclusive economic development are situated within a framework grounded in the traditional values of the people and community investment, countries like Nigeria can overcome the obstacles standing between the people and wealth. In Ontario, Canada, Joy Usiago, NTA News.
Still on the global scene, but on a sad note, a 12-hour curfew has been imposed by authorities in Sri Lanka following multiple bomb attacks. Also imposed a social media ban following the bomb attacks. So far, 8 suspects have been arrested. 3 churches and 3 hotels were hit by explosions on Easter Sunday, with about 200 people killed and 450 injured by the explosions. 36 foreigners are among the dead, including American, British and Dutch citizens. Sri Lankan president, in a statement, appealed for people to remain calm and support the authorities in investigations. 2 of the churches targeted were Catholic and the other was an evangelical church. There is no claim of responsibility for the attack yet. And back home in still on the Sri Lanka attack, Pope Francis laments the Easter Sunday attacks on several churches and hotels in Sri Lanka, which killed at least 138 people and wounded more than 400 others. The report.
Pope Francis was speaking at the conclusion of his Obi et Obi, addressing the faithful in St. Peter's Square. The Holy Father said the multiple attacks on churches and hotels around Sri Lanka brings grief and sorrow to the world.
Have brought mourning and pain to some churches and other places in Sri Lanka. I would like to express my heartfelt closeness to the Christian community, attacked while gathered in prayer, and to all the victims of such a cruel act of violence.
Meanwhile, back home in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed shock and sadness over the terrible attacks on several churches and hotels in Sri Lanka on the holy day of Easter. This is contained in a press release signed by the Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, which extends deepest condolences to the families of those killed in the attacks and prayers for speedy recovery for the injured on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria. Noting that Nigeria stands with the people of Sri Lanka at this terrible moment, President Buhari urges the authorities not to spare the wicked elements behind these mischievous attacks. And now we go to sports. Let's join Amanze Marcos for details.
Nigeria's Divine Oduduru Saturday at the Michael Johnson